Welcome to the Equinety Podcast, where horse owners just like you share their incredible Equinety stories and how Equinety is changing their horses' lives. Whether you're searching for something to give your performance horse better focus, faster recovery, and more stamina, or in the extreme case where all hope seems lost, give your horse what it needs to help heal at a cellular level, you'll find it here. So jump in on today's episode to hear how Equinety is helping horses worldwide. Now, welcome your host, John Dowdy.
Hello and welcome to this week's Equinety Podcast. We're swinging out into Texas. We've got Ann Jones on the call this week. Ann, welcome to the Equinety Podcast.
Hello. I'm glad to be joining you and explain my story to you today.
Well, we sure appreciate you taking the time. As always, we love having guests on. It's one of the reasons why we started the podcast was to share these stories and get them out and maybe give some other folks out there some hope if they're dealing with similar situations. And I know on this podcast, we're going to be talking about a rescue horse that you've had for quite a while, but just started declining over the years or over the last several years. But before we get into that, let's talk a little bit about your background and what you kind of do in the show world.
Okay. Well, I started showing quarter horses, I think in 95, and I did all around events and eventually kind of narrowed it down to trail and Western riding. And I'm just a big animal lover. I found this horse and decided I could rescue him and maybe take him. He's got a wonderful bloodline, and I wanted to show him and maybe Western pleasure. That would be something new for me. But it turned out that he had been stranded from a hurricane in Mississippi, and he was going to be taken to slaughter. And I found him and took him home and decided to rehab him. He was in pretty bad shape then, but didn't take long. He gained some weight back, and I started riding him, and he just wasn't going to make a show horse because I guess, trauma that he had been through. So we just kind of put him in the pasture and let him be happy for a little while.
And how many years ago was this?
This was, let's see, he's almost 17. I got him when he was 4.
Okay.
So I've had him for 13 years.
Gotcha. So he started, when you got him, he was in pretty bad shape, and so you kind of brought him back.
He was skinny, and they had cut his tail off. He had like fungus, and his feet were, of course, terrible. But we doctored him up, and he was beautiful. I mean, he still is beautiful. But his feet just never did recover from all that trauma. And in the last couple of years, it's just been getting really worse. And so bad that we were afraid we were actually going to have to put him down, because if you would watch him walk, I mean, he could barely walk. It would take him 5 minutes to get just 6 feet in the pasture. It was that bad. And I tried different supplements from, several different companies, different ingredients, and it just wasn't working. And so I saw this advertisement, and I thought, well, I was reading some of the stories. I thought, it can't hurt. So let me try this. And I'm telling you, the results are amazing.
How quickly did you begin? Now, we're talking specifically about the Equinety Horse Excel.
The Equinety.
Yes.
Yes.
So how quickly did you begin to see changes?
I could actually tell a difference in 3 days.
Wow. What did you see?
Well, he was moving faster. I mean, it didn't look like he was in pain in literally 3 days. And then in 7 days, it was even that much more difference. And like in 15 days, you could barely tell that he even had a limp. But then the most incredible thing, after he's been on it for a month, he's walking, straight up to his feet, not limping at all. But then I was out feeding one day. It was a cool day. All the animals were excited. And the horses next to him started running, and he took off running and bucking for like 5 minutes. And he has not done that in years. And I mean, I was almost in tears.
Wow.
We just stood there and watched. It was beautiful.
Yeah.
And that was in 30 days.
That is incredible. And how's his, you had mentioned that his hooves were just on the decline the last little bit every time or after every trim, it was just getting worse and worse?
Yeah. Sometimes they tend to be a little sore after they're trimmed, but this last couple times he would be trimmed. That's when it started just getting worse. And I had the vet look at him, and she was like, well, maybe the farrier's not doing a real good job. But I trust the farrier, and he's great. And so they did. His feet have always, his hooves have never been a real good condition. They crack and split easily. So this has even made his hooves look better.
Yeah. For those of you tuning in for the first time, maybe this is the first time you're really digging into what this product is. And, one question you might have is, how does it work in so many ways? If you look at all of our podcasters, everything from one extreme to another, and performance horses, rescue horses, and hoof quality and coat quality, and on and on and on. The Equinety Horse Excel is 100% pure amino acids. There's no fillers, no sugars, no starches, and there's no loading dose. And what the amino acids are specifically designed to do is give the body what it needs to release its own hormones, and then the body is able to send its own hormones to the problem areas. So we have a lot of feedback and testimonials with mystery lameness type issues where the vets and farriers and everybody's they've tried everything that they know and they still can't figure out what might be going on. And the neat thing with this is because it's working at the cellular level and the body's determining where to send its own hormones. And that's why it can help in so many scenarios. And, specifically when it comes to the hoof quality, we've just seen this over and over and over, especially with hooves and thin soles. We've seen a lot of changes just in 30 days. And just as you were describing what you saw in 3 days, that's the other thing is this product starts working in 24 hours. And so now it's just a matter of how quickly you can begin noticing the changes. And I would say the vast majority of people, and I'm talking upper 90 percentile, do see changes in 30 days or less. And there are those situations where it does take longer, but for the most part, 30 days or less, people are noticing changes. It could be softer, shinier coat, filling out. In this case, holy cow, from barely being able to walk around to out running and bucking and playing, like nothing's going on. I think he's ready to show now.
Yeah, he might be. I'm not sure I'm ready to tackle training him again.
Yeah. Oh man.
I'm a little older than I was when I first got him.
Yeah. What's your farrier's comments been on the hoof quality?
He actually hasn't been back to see him since he trimmed him right before I started this.
Oh man.
He's due just anytime. So yeah, I'm excited for him to see the difference.
He's going to be stunned.
Yeah, he will be. And the vet hasn't seen him yet either. So she's going to be really surprised.
Wow.
Because and I've had several vets, look at him, and no one could give me any answer, and they would just say, try chondroitin, glucosamine, and just, try this and that. And no one could help me. Mm-hmm. And, I was reading about this product and thinking, oh, that sounds too good to be true. But it really is true.
Yeah. Now we hear that a lot. We've converted a lot of the skeptics, the super skeptics.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. No, it's it makes sense from a science standpoint. Amino acids are the building blocks of protein. And, some of the questions that we get often are maybe people are using certain medications or other supplements. And so one of the common questions are, should I stop using this other stuff before using the Equinety product? And our answer is always, don't change the thing you're using, just add this to it. And that way, it's the only element you've changed. And then over the next couple weeks to 30 days, where the majority of people do start noticing positive changes, your horse better than anyone. So then you can determine whether to reduce or stop using some of the other things. And I know before we got on the podcast, we were talking about one of your show horses and how that show horse is regularly injected. I know one of the feedbacks that we get a lot from injected horses from their owners when they start using this product, their feedback to us is they don't have to inject as often, and sometimes not at all. It all depends on the horse and the severity of what's going on in there. But the good news is there's not any negative side effects to any medications or other supplements. And that's why you can just add this to it and then see how it changes your horse for the good. So pretty remarkable.
Yeah, it is. So does it affect their attitude? Can it make them, because my other show horse, he's kind of grumpy.
Yep.
Do you think that, I mean, it could be because he's in pain, I guess.
Yeah.
And so maybe this can help the attitude.
Yeah, it's a great question. We've had, I would say, well, going on the market for about 7 years now, we've had a lot of people say they've had and seen complete demeanor changes in as little as 3 days with their horses.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. And again, it's because they're, it starts working in 24 hours. So, we've been to different events and barrel racing and things like that. And after 2 or 3 days, people are like, okay, I don't know what this stuff is, but the horse I have right now is not the one I brought down.
Wow.
So that's very common. Does it work every single time that quickly? Well, we got to say no, but the odds are so high that it's going to work and work quickly and we just hear it all the time. But you're right. A lot of that could be because of some pain going on somewhere. And, this can help alleviate some of that pain. And so just like when we're in pain.
I think I heard on one of your other podcasts, someone talking about adding it like an extra dose when they go to show.
Yes. And another great question. Yep. So
I think I'm going to start doing that.
Absolutely. So the science behind that is when, for example, you give a scoop in the morning, and that's giving the body what it needs to release those hormones for repair. Well, the hormones have a 23.5-hour life cycle. So by the time you give a scoop the following morning, the hormone levels are back to where they would normally be for that age of a horse. And so we have a lot of people that are in the performance world that they'll give a scoop in the morning and a scoop in the evening. And so what that's doing is keeping the hormone levels elevated. And so it just helps promote faster recovery.
Yeah, that sounds wonderful.
Yeah. And it's something that you can test with for a couple weeks or 30 days and see how it works or back it off. And so it's very customizable, but a lot of the people that are out there, running really hard, they swear by the 2 scoops. And of course, then we have other people that swear, they have to be rounded versus flat, But I'm like, there's the crazy horse people, so.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
We can get crazy.
Yes. So awesome. Well, Ann, I really appreciate you taking the time. Is there anything else that you'd like to share with anybody about the product? I guess let me ask you this. I think you kind of mentioned this because as you were dealing with the horse and you tried all these other products, so you went on the search, and of course you found us on Facebook, which we do a lot of advertising on Facebook. Were you somewhat skeptical when you first saw the thing? What was your first or initial reactions?
When I saw it on Facebook?
Yes.
Oh, yeah, because like I said, it sounded too good to be true. And I've been burnt a little from buying stuff straight from Facebook. So I just decided I went straight to your website and learned more about the history and the background and the actual science behind it, and felt very confident about ordering from you, and got the product quickly, and all the stuff that people are saying is true.
Yeah.
So if anyone has any kind of issue, I just recommend just try it for 30 days. It's got nothing to lose, because it's not, like you're saying, it doesn't interfere with medication, or it's natural healing. Mm-hmm. And I would suggest it for anyone having an issue with a horse.
Yeah, absolutely. And right on our website, under the Equinety Horse Excel section, there's 3 little videos, but one of them specifically is how amino acids work. And that's a very informative video. It's kind of animated. And for those of you wanting some more information on that, but it shows exactly how amino acids work in the body. So it's very, very educational on that. So, well, awesome. Well, Ann Jones out of Texas, thank you so much for taking the time to share your story here on the Equinety Podcast.
You're welcome. I'm glad to do it, and I hope it helps someone.
That's all for this episode of the Equinety Podcast. For more information on purchasing Equinety, be sure to visit our website at teamequinety.com, where you'll also find product information as well as more testimonials on how others have seen amazing results by implementing Equinety into their horse's supplement regime. We'll have more stories on how Equinety is helping horses worldwide right here on a future episode of the Equinety Podcast.